Hi, this is Congressman Tom Cole, and this is another one of our congressional chats about what's going on. Of course, we went through a 43-day shutdown that we should have never gone through, in my opinion. This was simply because our Democratic colleagues decided they wanted to shut down the government to get subsidies for Obamacare health insurance policies renewed. I remind folks that no Republicans ever voted for Obamacare. And in this case, these are extra subsidies that were added during COVID and that the Democrats themselves set the date to expire. COVID's over. It's time for us to move on. That doesn't mean we should take our opinion or take our view off of health care. There's lots that need to be done, but the skyrocketing prices are really a result of the defects in Obamacare itself. So we should be looking at that, not simply subsidizing failure by throwing on additional subsidies. And then the Democrats also wanted to undo Medicaid reforms and changes that would do things like impose work requirements, make sure illegal immigrants are not on the receiving Medicaid, they're not supposed to. Make sure that states which administer the program actually lower the error rate. So again, they're not putting people on there and then not worrying about it because they don't have to pay much of the price. It falls on the federal government. So those reforms were important reforms. They're passed both houses of Congress. They were signed by the president, and none of them actually come into effect until 2027. So the idea we needed to shut down the government in 2025 is just simply laughable on its face, or that Republicans would undo legislation they had passed at great effort a matter of weeks or months after the passage and before they had ever taken effect. I mean, it just shows how irresponsible the whole exercise was on the part of our Democratic colleagues. In that shutdown, we had to worry about whether or not our military families would get paid. Thanks to President Trump, they did twice. He found the money. But had he not been able to, as I always put it, pull a couple of rabbits out of the hat, we would have had military families unpaid, people deployed wondering whether or not their families could be taken care of. That's unacceptable. We did have our air traffic controllers unpaid. That began to snarl up air traffic, and legitimately so, and that too is unacceptable. We did not pay men and women inspecting our meat because guess what? No, we're all hoping to have a good Thanksgiving, and I think you would like the meat that you're going to consume to be inspected. We could go on and on about all the different people that were furloughed or not paid, simply so Democrats could achieve things that are unrelated to the day-to-day functioning of the government. I'm an equal opportunity critic of both sides on this because I've seen Republicans do the same thing twice. Didn't work either time. Now I've seen Democrats do it twice. It didn't work either time. No one who's ever tried this tactic has actually achieved whatever their stated objective was. But they have inflicted considerable pain on the American people. And this particular shutdown, because it's the longest in American history, inflicted more pain on more people than any of the previous ones. My hope is that politicians on both sides of the aisle learn that shutting down the government never works, is always irresponsible, and the people that pay the price are men and women that did not cause the problem, or families did not cause the problem. I mean, my goodness, we were even at the point that people that relied on food stamps and people, women with single women with children were not able to get what they needed. I mean, that's just unbelievable to me that you would turn those kinds of people into pawns in a political struggle. So again, it's behind us now. The people that caused it did not achieve a single thing that they set out to do. And by the way, they even tried to claim they didn't do it. You should always remember 99% of Democrats voted repeatedly, first to shut down the government and then keep it shut down. A majority of the House voted always to keep the government open, and a majority of the Senate voted always to keep the government open. The only reason it was shut down is because the Senate has a unique rule called the filibuster, where you have to get to 60. And while we had 55 votes, a pretty substantial majority in the United States Senate, it took a while to get to 60 before 5 additional Democrats, there were 3 from the very beginning that thought this was a bad idea, came around. And I want to thank those 8 people, and they're getting considerable blowback in their own party and being demonized. Frankly, I look at them as people that either never would engage in this, and that's 3 who did not, and the other 5 came around and said this is just too much suffering, damage to the American people. Now, we have the shutdown over. It doesn't mean it won't come back. The government is only open between till January 30th of next year. Now, in addition to keeping it open through January 30th, we did pass 3 appropriations bills: agriculture, veterans, and military construction and veterans affairs, and what's called the lead branch. And each one of those things will actually help us because they can't be turned off come January 30th. So SNAP and WIC are both within the agriculture bill. We won't have to worry about that problem again until January 30th of next year. Those programs will be fully funded. Anything in agriculture is now taken care of. In terms of veterans and military construction, obviously we have a full year of military construction now fully taken care of, and we should never think about not fulfilling our obligations to our veterans. So that's taken care of. And finally, the operation of government itself, the legislative branch, additional security for the Supreme Court, for the president and the executive branch, and for the Congress are all in this bill. It's not a perfect bill. The Senate snuck something in it at the very last minute that most of us in the House on both sides of the aisle did not agree with, but the important thing was to simply get the government funded, open and operational, and capable of continuing to process its business. So that's the prologue. This period, Congress didn't move a lot on the floor. There's a lot of sort of catch-up things. Things are not especially controversial, where both sides agreed. Those things moved along pretty quickly, and we had some late nights voting. Probably from my standpoint, the most important thing that occurred during this period is I was able to meet and talk with my counterpart in the United States Senate, the chairwoman of the Appropriations Committee, Senator Susan Collins of Maine. We have an excellent working relationship, got a lot done. We also met with our 2 Democratic counterparts, Rosa DeLauro, the ranking member on the House Appropriations Committee from Connecticut, and Patty Murray, the ranking member of the Appropriations Committee in the Senate from the state of Washington. So we're beginning to talk about the other bills now. What others can we get packaged? What can we do? I'm not going to draw you today into a long, drawn-out discussion, but the Senate is hopefully going to move some bills across the floor when we get back from the Thanksgiving break. We will look at those and pick at least some of them that we'll try and move back across the floor and come to a compromise with. Get at least some of this work done before Christmas so we're not waiting to the last minute in January. But again, pushing some into January in order to give members more time to evaluate the bills. There's 2 large bills in particular. I hope we can pass them both. One is defense, and the other is what's called Labor H, Labor, Health and Human Services and Education. Those are 2 big bills. Between them, they're about 2/3 of all federal discretionary spending. Probably take more time to process those 2 bills and come to agreement than the others. So I'd like to get a package of smaller bills done between now and Christmas, focus on the big items. We also have, while we in the House have finished all our work at the committee level so we can negotiate any of the 12 bills that run the government, the Senate has only gotten 8 bills out of committee. They have 4 more to get out, and they either need to get them out of committee or do what's called posting them, that is just put them up there, and we can negotiate on those too. But again, that's a Senate decision. They'll make that decision, and we'll try and move on. We have an awful lot of work to get done in the remainder, the little bit of December, of November, and then we'll have 2 to 3 weeks in December, and then all of January when we get back from New Year's. And that sounds like a lot of time, but for 9 bills, let me assure you, it is not. Particularly bills of this magnitude and size. The defense bill by itself is almost $1 trillion. So you can imagine how many lines and how much negotiation there is. You also know not only is it critical defending us and making sure our men and women in uniform have what they need to be successful and to protect the country. Pretty important economic driver in a state like Oklahoma, where we have 5 military bases, obviously huge civilian workforces at Tinker and Fort Sill, as well as Altus and out at McAllister and then Vance Air Force Base in Enid. So we have a lot involved in that single bill. And then when you look at all the other bills, again, we have a lot at stake, and so we'll be trying to look after our interests in Oklahoma, but also much more importantly, our interests for the entire country in getting this important work done. That's hard to do right now. The two parties are at odds with one another, and frankly, the trust level on each side is pretty low. But we're going to try and work through that, try and get to acceptable compromises that are genuinely bipartisan, where both sides can agree. Nobody will get everything they want, but everybody will have some say in things that are important to their districts or their states, or things that they believe are critical missions for the United States. So, and by the way, while we're doing that, other parts of the Congress will be looking at health care to try and solve some of the basic problems in Obamacare, and we have a whole panoply of other issues to deal with. When we come back, we'll need to get what's called the National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, done. That is the basic framework that we distribute the money by. And so there's a lot on our plate going forward. Losing 43 days was not helpful in doing that, but again, that's in the rearview mirror now. Let's focus on what there is to go forward. Let me end with this. Obviously, we're on the beginning of the Thanksgiving season. I want to wish you and your family a very happy Thanksgiving. I hope you're getting to spend it together as a family. I hope you take time when you count your blessings to, number one, thank all of those Americans that are protecting all of us, whether they're in uniform or there are police and firefighters locally. They're going to be working. They're going to be putting us first. And so at your family table and in a family that, in a way that's befitting to your faith, I hope you ask the Lord to protect them and keep them, and thank them for what they do for all the rest of us. And then I hope you also take time to remember how fortunate all of us are to live in this remarkable country, the great United States of America, where people are free, where opportunity is abundant, and where we set the highest standards in the world for our behavior and the loftiest goals that we can possibly achieve. So again, I hope that your family is doing well, and look forward to chatting with you again soon on the other side of Thanksgiving.